Hello, everybody. My name is Roger Palomino. I'm here to interview director, writer, producer, and production person extraordinaire, Cady McClain. And this Zoom interview is made possible by our wonderful tech director, producer Mel Petersen. So thank you for being here today with us, Cady.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I really enjoyed your documentary. We're here to talk about Seeing is Believing Women Direct. But before we get started, I just wanted to talk a little bit about your background in acting. I've done a lot of research. I've been watching interviews and reading a lot of your information online. I found very interesting information, like you started acting at age 9. So tell us how everything led to that point in your life.
Oh boy. I came from a pretty crazy family. Great in that my mother was very artistic, but not so great in that we were constantly running out of money. So I was already pretty much of a performer. And a girl I knew in a dance class was doing commercials, and I said, "Oh, I can do commercials. I want to do commercials." I didn't really at the time have any thought about being an actor. I wasn't really didn't really know that existed. So I asked my mom, can I do this? And I was doing a musical at the time. She took a horrible photo of me, sent it out to a bunch of different, I mean, seriously, they printed it backwards. I had like stage makeup and like the ringlets. I looked insane.
Oh,
She sent it out
wow.
to a whole bunch of agents, and one of them called. And that was Iris Burton, who is a notorious children's agent who also handled River Phoenix, among others. And, she was like, "Let me see your teeth, honey. Never wear your ponytails that high again. Throw that shirt away." Like she was crazy New York, lady. But it was super fun, and it launched me into the world of professional acting. And I was very lucky because I was a dancer. I worked immediately in a film called Pennies from Heaven. That I did that when I was 12, which was directed by Herb Ross. And My Favorite Year, as Tess, Peter O'Toole's daughter, which was directed by Richard Benjamin. And we can touch base on this later, but as I was thinking about like what to talk about with you, one of the things I definitely wanted to mention was, my experience as an actress was always working for male directors. So I didn't even realize that a woman could be a director until I was much, much older. And that launched me into being into the entertainment industry. And then I began to have to learn about craft, which is a whole other world. I didn't want to be a child star. I wanted to be an actress. I began to discover that world and the world of craft, which led me into later studying the craft from the director's point of view.
Yeah, and I love hearing that because one of the things that fascinated me is just your extensive work as an actor and the various projects that you were involved in. And I also was very impressed because, as I mentioned, I'm a big fan of soap operas, a big fan of Days of Our Lives, and just to hear that you're a three-time Emmy award-winning actor, and for Days of Our Lives, actually, you played a very beloved character, Jennifer Horton, and you won the category Outstanding Guest Performer for a soap opera. Tell us a little bit about what that experience was like out of all your experience in soaps.
Well, it was unusual in that it was during the pandemic, the height of the pandemic. It was 2020, in the fall of 2020. They reached out. Missy Reeves, who's known for the part over 30 years, could not come in, could not fly. She had kids. She had her kids having kids, and to go back and forth would have been, high risk. So they needed to replace her for a period of time. And so I was like, hell yeah, I'm game. I'm in LA. It's 15 minutes from my house completely. It was nerve wracking. I'll be honest with you, the COVID protocols coming in and the tests every day, and we couldn't rehearse in person. We had to rehearse over an app and or on the phone, run lines on the phone, and wear masks on set until we got to the set, and then we could take them off. So it was nerve wracking, but at the same time, I'm so grateful. The storyline was so fantastic that I had that opportunity to try to do my best work and then to win that award, which was great. And I'm very proud, a little bragging here, but this third Emmy, I actually made history. I'm the first woman to have ever won 3 Emmys for 3 different characters on 3 different shows. And I just love that. It's all part of the breaking of the glass ceiling in any small or large way that I think we can do that in order to show that certainly women are capable of doing, people who identify as women are capable of doing much more than perhaps we have been allotted, thus far.
Yeah, I was really impressed too by the interview. Jamie Lynn Bauer, who played Laura Horton, said online that you were mentioning that it was very difficult for actors to really practice and rehearse prior to taping, so that you were actually doing other characters with them, over the app. So I was very impressed by that. Every actor that has worked with you has said wonderful things. How has your experience as an actor helped you in regard to like what you were doing with that particular project?
Thank you. I studied with a fellow named Michael Howard for about 8 years here in New York City, and he really ground into us that acting is an ensemble experience, and that mindset. If one member of the ensemble goes down, the whole ship goes down. We all have to be there for each other, helping each other to make the play be its best. We are serving the play, and that was also a mentality that I was trained in, which is you are serving the writing. You are putting yourself into the writer's hands and hoping to enlighten or elevate it. And that same mindset as a director is what has really made me enjoy and love directing so much, because it's very much a team sport, if you will. Although the director is holding the vision, you have to have the confidence of your team. If they do not believe in you, if they do not feel like they can be heard by you, they may not tell you something that's really important, like, oh, by the way, we don't really have all the props that we need. And they'll just be like, oh, well, here, use this one. Or they'll do what they have to do to get through the day, but they're not going to say, oh, by the way, I've got this prop at home that's so awesome. I know we didn't talk about it, but what if, and then you get that juice going, because you're all creating together. And I prefer that kind of, it's almost like a spider web type of leadership, rather than a top-down kind of pyramidical style of leadership where there's just a dominant singular, you do what I say and this is what I want, and and that's what we're all following the general. That's much more army minded, which has its own history in filmmaking. But as have seen from the film, there's another history that hasn't been talked about as much, which is women making movies and the different leadership skills that we can bring to the table, which I think are very exciting. And so I really enjoy doing that.
I like what you were saying in the documentary, Seeing is Believing, Women Directing. You had said, I am of a mind that I cannot ask others to do something that I have not been willing to do myself. Having some practice and understanding of the key departments involved in film makes me more able to communicate with insight into each craft involved, and I believe a better producer and director. So what were some of your challenges leading up to this moment in history where you did make this documentary? What were your challenges, I think more specifically as a woman in production, in the field of production?
Boy. Well, certainly as an actress, I had my Me Too moments, which really, really made me retreat, not want to participate, really made me kind of feel like I had to watch my back or join in the conversation in a BS-y kind of way. Like I had to adjust my personality in order to like be in the room with the loud talkers or the BSers. And I didn't like who that was making me become. It did not feel authentic to me. It felt like I was losing myself. And so I felt like by going the independent route, I was able to start to carve out my own voice, and I have space for that. And I'm very lucky that I was able to afford to put my own money into my first shorts. It's hard to make movies. They are painting with a very expensive brush. These days, I know they say the iPhone 13 is Hollywood in your pocket, but I have yet to check that out. We'll see. To be continued. Let's see. See about that. But I definitely feel like I needed to go back to that quote, to keep trying to understand every single department. And one of the ways I saved money on my first couple of films was that I ended up doing production design, costumes, not hair and makeup, because I have literally no skill in those areas other than whatever I can get going here, but with a flat iron. But not doing sound, but really talking with the sound guys. And actually, when I did Seeing is Believing, then I also had to do sound because I couldn't afford to interview 50 people. And I had to learn how to use a camera. I couldn't afford to have a DP for 50 interviews. So that really gave me a great deal of, it was a challenge. It's a challenge to learn these art forms, and you can get a certain distance in terms of how good you can be at it. But then I felt like, okay, now I have to stop because I need the expert to take over. I don't have the time to learn everything there is to know about the camera and everything there is to know about, sound. But I have enough information that I can communicate, and I can, when I can hire someone, or we raise the money to hire someone, now I have the skills to communicate. And so those obstacles of like running into even my own limitations as a technical person, definitely were worth bumping up against so that I could have more respect and literacy in that field.
Would you say, Cady, with everything you've seen as an actor, that being able to like be there in the moment and watching everything come together in the production, that has translated into becoming a more successful director with what you're doing currently?
I think so. I mean, I feel like one of the things that's really important is that everyone kind of listens to what's going on in the culture and adjusts so that we can change the things that are not working, and do it in a way where we're not like pinning blame too hard. Like, okay, we get it. These generations keep passing down this somewhat abusive style of leadership and calling it leadership. And it is causing people to retreat from the industry or have PTSD, experiences, and not, want to bring their best to the table or be able to flower as an artist. And it just becomes an obstacle in which now you've got to overcome this horrendous thing that was said or done to you. And so I feel like, I've had guys watch this documentary and feel like, okay, great, I'm not being blamed for the problem, right? I'm being included in the conversation of like, how can I be a better leader? How can I be more inclusive and communicative? And what skills can I learn and apply so that we can get the best work? Because that is what we all want. We want great work. That is what we're all trying to do here. It's not about winning all the awards, or, which it's nice to win awards. It's great. But it's not about, the heavy competition element of it. It's not a sport, it's an art, and the art has its purpose. And so I think that's kind of like my goal and my hope after all of my experiences of being on sets and seeing people, is to continue to try to motivate everyone on both sides of the camera to remember, like, we're in this together. We're doing this for the work. The work is it's the greater good of the work, and that work has a purpose in the world and is meant to do something in the world. And if everybody gets behind that, then we're all doing the same thing, and no, people don't get hurt.
Yeah, I was really impressed with the documentary because you had so many different subjects, and one of the questions you were asking them is, "Can you name a female director?" And I know all of them had different responses, and I think one guy, I think it was the first one, he was really honest and he said, well, the only reason I can't name too many is because maybe they're not mainstream. So what have you seen as far as like the subjects that you interviewed that have really stayed with you when they were able to mention someone that might not be mainstream but is an effective filmmaker, a female filmmaker?
Oh my gosh. What's her name? It's so funny. Claire Denis.
Oh, yeah.
Claire Denis is not well known in the United States necessarily. Maybe if you're in the, in independent film world, you're like, of course I know who Claire Denis is, but like culturally in the larger sense, she's not well known. You're in Europe, abroad, lots of people know who Claire Denis is. She's one of the greatest filmmakers of all time, frankly. But that she was a real revelation to me. I wasn't fully aware of who she was. And so when I started watching her films, I mean, I was just blown away. She is terrifyingly good. And she's also able to drop into worlds that make you very uncomfortable. Her ability to handle violence and violence in people is just miraculous. So so I would say Claire Denis was a real revelation for me.
In your documentary, with my post-its, I wrote a quote that really stayed with me that you included. If your dreams do not scare you, they are not big enough. And it was said by Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, first elected female head of state in the African continent.
Isn't that a great quote?
It is. It is.
My dreams scare the hell out of me.
Mine too.
I am always terrified. I'm like, what am I doing? There's always like my muse back there kind of shoving me forward. And I'm like, no, really? Are we sure about this?
Yeah. I think everyone has that side. Yeah.
Right.
It gets scary, but that's also what makes it so exciting,
Then you hop into the hot pot and you're like, wow, I can do this. Here we go. And I know that everybody feels that way, but if we listen to our fears, what would we do when we get done? We'd watch a lot of binge TV.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Order a lot of takeout, and like write angry things on the internet.
Exactly. Yeah. This is where it starts.
Right. So I guess I'm like, come to the television, come to the making independent films. If you're interested in it, come on out and play and come, volunteer for a friend of yours. Do crafty, learn how to do crafty. It's really, crafty is so important and it's so unappreciated, but it is like the meeting place for everybody. I taught someone who is Indian to do crafty in this way. I said, think of it like a wedding, like a big Indian wedding. And everybody's coming for the food,
Yeah.
So that was fun. Yeah. But I just encourage people to take that risk, towards their dreams if they're afraid, come on out.
Well, that was another thing you mentioned in the documentary too, is the idea of mentorship. Was a whole section. And that intrigued me a lot too, because like you were saying, a lot of people get intimidated away from the industry with their bad experiences and everything else. And a lot of people especially just don't feel comfortable going to someone, especially someone they admire or are so, what we tell in our heads, they're so far above us, they're so much more important than I am. Like they'd never mentor someone like me. So yeah, I mean, I love the idea that, we should encourage more mentorship on all levels. We should try and work with various people, because how are they going to learn if, how did we learn coming up? It's like, we learn from each other. We, called up those connections and friends and then got down to the dirty work ourselves.
That's right. But that's important. That's a really important point. It's like, there is an art to being a mentee, and to be a mentee, you have to be willing to do the dirty work. You cannot expect someone to just hand you the camera and say, let me teach you everything there is to know about this device. Like that's just not how it works. And that art of apprenticeship is something that the British do so well. They train in, and someone spends time learning this particular craft, and it's important. I think if there's any kind of complaint I have about the what's one of the problems in the industry right now is that people are expecting too much too soon. They're not. There's a lot of people who are just think that they already know how to do everything, and I'm like, okay, well, if you do, go ahead. Go make your movie, but don't ask me to also make your movie for you, and then you put your name on it, That's not cool, man. That's not cool.
Yeah.
No.
Oh yeah, I've seen a lot of that.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So go stumble and fall, but then if you really need to learn, like, do your time. Like, well, one of the things that even Sarah Gavron said is she's like, I should have spent more time on movie sets. I should have stood there. I should have listened. She did a lot of time studying, and she made 9 short films. But by the time she was hired to do her first feature, she realized, oh my God, I don't know the protocols here. I don't know the relationships I'm supposed to foster, or, I'm overwhelmed by this situation here, and everybody asking me a question every 5 seconds. Like, she hadn't been on a set enough to at all, not a feature film. She'd only done shorts. So that is something, if you can get yourself onto a feature film set and be an observer and be humble enough to know what you don't know. And I think that at least know that you probably don't know something.
Yeah.
I know I don't
True.
know a lot of things, maybe I'm too humble, but I definitely think that there's a value in being, in coming to it with the respect that it deserves, and so that's what I would recommend. Be a good mentor, make time for your mentees, help make opportunities for them. I was a women in film mentor for 2019 to 2020. I had 6 fantastic women, all doing different jobs in the industry. And it was my pleasure to help them. They'd worked so hard to get to where a certain point and now wanted to jump, and they needed everything from emotional support to contacts, to talking about protocols or politics, how to handle this or that. So it's a joy to mentor. So I highly recommend it. But be a good mentee too.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. One thing I wanted to talk about too is safety on set, and with the recent events that had happened on the Rust film set, how do you conceive new ways of managing safety on sets regarding filmmaking?
Well, I've been thinking about this a lot. Obviously, it was a huge, I call it a tragedy. It's a tragedy. I don't think I don't know, I wasn't there, right? But I don't think there were ill intentions. When I look at the whole, all the pieces of the puzzle, the only thing I can think of that was the enemy of production was rushing, was the issue of time, of pushing time. And when things have to go too fast and someone is rushed for time and we got to go, 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 that's when mistakes get made. And so I think the conversations that have been going on, and some of the ones I've been involved in, are really about making sure that we are making time for safety, that safety protocols are respected and always enforced, and that the people who are holding those safety protocols also get the respect and time that they say they need. So that's what I'm hearing, and what I'm hoping is going to continue to be put into place. Whether it's an industry production or a super indie, that we're all going to stop and remember, no one should die on a movie set. It's a frickin' movie.
Yeah.
It's not a hospital. It's not a war.
Shouldn't be anyway.
Right? It's making a bit of entertainment and perhaps some enlightenment, but no one should be killed because of an error in safety.
Yeah, and that's one thing Mel and I experienced working on a short together is that, the collaboration and I think the psychology of everyone being well and feeling well is very important because I think that boosts the energy of the whole production. So if everybody is there feeling good and pumped up, then everybody comes together and says, "Yes, I can do this."
Feed them, pay them, let them sleep.
Yeah. Yes, especially let them sleep.
And let them go
Right?
to the bathroom.
Let them go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And on the flip side, you got to show up on time. You got to do your job with a good attitude, and you got to do your best.
Yeah.
Yes.
And bring your best to the table. Don't do a half-assed job from the crew and production side. And that, excellence is expected, professional behavior is expected.
Yeah.
If you're fed
Yes.
and you're paid and you're, allowed to go to the bathroom and allowed to sleep,
Yeah.
you got
Yeah.
to bring your professionalism to the table,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's one thing I liked about the documentary too. When I was watching it, I was so immersed in it and with all the interviews and the quotes and the artwork was
Oh,
amazing too. I love the
love the art
artwork.
and the
I
animations.
wanted to ask you about that too, the animation real quick. How did you find the artist and had them collaborate with the documentary?
It's a great story. Her name is Javiera Lopez, and she comes from Santiago, Chile. And I found her on Giphy, Giphy, Giphy. She was making
Giphy.
little GIFs. And I was like, these are magical, magical. So I wrote her. Through her. I found her website. I wrote her on her website. And I said, this is what I'm making. Can we collaborate? And it worked out. And so we never met in person. We did all our work online, her being in, Chile and me being in California. And she made some beautiful pieces. And I feel like they're so evocative of the creative self and the subconscious and the sort of, that the muse, if you will, the spiritual feminine, if you will, that is, that we all kind of court in order to get those ideas onto the paper. Her illustrations say that to me anyway. So I just love them. I'm so grateful to work with her, and I would recommend anyone just reach out if you feel like working with Javiera. You can find more of her things online at javieralopez.com. That's my
We'll have to
I
put a
love
plug in
them.
for.
yes, little
Yeah.
plug for her. Yeah.
I was also very impressed that originally it started as a 28-minute, then it went to 58 and then 84. Now, because of all the advice you had gotten from, people saying, oh, yeah, perhaps it could be longer. And I know you probably have a lot more content to add. So is there going to be something beyond the 84 minutes?
Oh my gosh. Well, I'll tell you, it's a good story. And I have to do a shout out to Sybil Santiago of the Soho Film Festival, who was the person that called me up when she saw the short. And because I was thinking, oh, maybe I should serialize this. I'll make a series, because
Yeah.
someone else is making a film. I can't make a film. Her film's going to be so great. Like, oh, maybe I'll make a series and I won't be competitive because I didn't want to compete, and I just wanted to, uplift. And Sybil called me up and she said, this is going to be a great documentary. Did you want to make a feature? Can you make it into a feature in 3 weeks? So I was like, well, yes, that's kind of what I wanted to do in the first place. And I needed that encouragement. Like we're all not fully self-sufficient, self-driving forces. We need each other, right? We need to encourage each other. So she gave me that beautiful encouragement for which I will always be grateful. And then there was a distributor who said, like, I think you need it to be longer. And I said, well, I think you're right. I took the time to really make it out as long and as what I really wanted to make in the first place. So I'm very grateful for that. And in terms of what is our next steps, I have so much material. I am kind of interested, like, should I give it to like the Academy, all this incredible footage and or just like the audio, or give it to the AFI library, let students kind of play with it and make of it what they will. yeah, there's all kinds of options, or, maybe there's a podcast in it. There's much that could episodes, little short episodes. We've talked about that. It's all possible. We'll see what the muse has to say. What she wants to do. I am her. She's in charge. I am really, really happy. I just heard from the writer of a wonderful short film that was a finalist at the Austin Film Festival called Hero. Her name's Olivia Mackenzie Smith, and she has decided to have me be the director of this beautiful short film. So I'm very excited about that. It's about a female returned warrior from Afghanistan, female veteran, suffering with PTSD, and her child who's, kind of filming her, it's just a beautiful concept and a beautifully written script. And I was like, what are you doing with this script? Do you have a director? I would like to be your director. So I'm very excited about that. I just heard about that last night. So that's my next project. Focusing on that short. And of course, I also have this feature called Paint Made Flesh, which was a play that I helped develop with playwright Howard Meyer. And we filmed that play. We did a production of that play. We did 6 workshops, one at Steppenwolf. We did one short kind of private production in New York City, which we filmed. And then we wrote the screenplay, and we've been sending that around. We were a semifinalist at Big Apple and a quarterfinalist at Blue Cat. We're waiting to hear from one more, fingers crossed, and that we'll get a nice little recognition, which will, again, like all these pieces of the puzzle that you have to make, have to like, it's like putting things in your basket. Okay, here are our laurels. Here's our star. Here's our
right.
Get the behind the scenes in there.
Yeah, but I'm very excited. Paint Made Flesh is a story about a female painter and her lovers, and it's a wonderful twist at the end. And it's sort of about fighting for yourself as an artist, sometimes in spite of the influences and relationships around you, because we all are affected by the people in our lives, whether they encourage us or criticize us. Mm-hmm. So I felt like this film was really important, especially, women who are trying to drive forward their own vision, in spite of, whatever they may be told or not told. So I'm continuing to drive that feature forward. That would be my first narrative feature, and I think it's a tale worth telling. I'm very excited about it. And we do have a great producer, Deborah Del Pratt, who's done some amazing films, including everything from Wedding Planner to Green Street Hooligans and Ricochet River. And I mean, she's done so many great films, and so I'm so blessed and lucky to have her on board. So that's that play, that piece of play. So, yeah.
Got so many irons in the fire. Well, what?
Yeah.
And you're going to update your website, so we'll be able to follow all these irons, right?
Yes, absolutely. Awesome. Absolutely. Oh, yeah. I don't believe, I call it boring bragging. Whatever you do, just think of it as boring bragging. It's boring to you, but you have to tell people what you're doing. It's so important. So, yes, I put it on Twitter. I put it on Instagram. I put it on my website. I'm like,
all the socials.
All about, you put it on the socials, Facebook included, Meta, whatever the hell they're calling it.
Right, yeah.
But yes.
Yeah. And I think the world is very lucky to have this documentary that you made, because I was thinking honestly, like before I got into the filmmaking world, would I have honestly been able to name a female director? And the two that stood out that were, because they were mainstream, were Penny Marshall and Susan Seidelman, because I love A League of Their Own, and I love Desperately Seeking Susan's, the 80s. So how can you go wrong with that?
Oh, that's such great work. And it's so fun. Their movies are fun, I just, those are great examples of great work by female directors. So.
Well, and we're very happy to add you to the list too.
Yes,
definitely.
Too.
And I'm very excited for your upcoming narrative work, as well as everything, continuing this project, doing additional, that's going to be exciting to see how you direct that Austin film too.
Yes.
So,
it's so cool. It's such a cool film. I just love
hopefully
it.
my goal is to keep getting you back here to do more interviews and tell us more
Yes.
things you're doing, as
Yes.
well as to keep showing more things that you're making. So,
Mel, you call, I will answer. You're the best.
I will. Well, you're going to be sick of me eventually because I will call a lot. Well, thank you so much for talking with us today. I don't want to hog all your day because I know you probably got to get back to tons of planning. You just got back from a wonderful vacation, I hope. So I will be in touch. I'm going to edit this madly for today to get it ready for our Houston Media Sources art event this Saturday, which we're going to be screening your film in person at the facility, but also on our TV signal. So let anyone know. Feel free to share the flyer. But yeah, it'll be 10 a.m. In person and over the TV. And then in person, we're doing it at 4 p.m. And then on the TV, we're doing it again at 7:30 p.m. So, and this will play along with it too. So,
So exciting. I'm so happy.